we'll get started with the Banana Splits movie from 2019, in which a family attends a live recording of the Banana Splits television series, but they're forced to survive as soon as characters from the show go haywire and start a killing spree around the studio. So this is a movie that I just blind bought it on Blu-ray. In fact, I didn't even watch it until last night. So I've had it for months, but just never quite got around to watching it. Well, it's mainly because I've got so many movies that I've bought on Blu-ray and I haven't watched yet, so there's only so many of them I can actually get around to all that quickly. So, but in any case, this is a first-time watch for me. Now, this is not such a bad movie. It's it teeters somewhere between a range of okay to somewhat enjoyable. I feel like there was a genuine attempt here to make something fun. While I don't think it succeeds greatly, there's some decent things in this movie. Notably, it has some pretty good kills. There's quite a bit of gory kills in there. Some of it's a bit stupid, like they run over people with their little car outside the studio, and I always found those moments to be a little corny, but overall, it's got some decent kills. The acting in the movies, it's pretty decent for the type of budget movie it is. What are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, so when I first saw this one, I think it must have been last year at some point. Actually, it might have been 2019. But I was actually surprised. I didn't expect to really care for it that much. But as I was watching it, I was legitimately enjoying it. And it's like a combination of, I think, the really good special effects, the good goal. I think there's a decent amount, like maybe half the characters you actually sort of like. For instance, I also like the dad beat son. I mean, that guy's like, it looks like he's not even trying. He just looks so out of it. But he's like my favorite character. His casual way with the women too helps a lot. So I mean, I enjoy a decent amount of these characters. I think there's some funny lines, but I also appreciate how the movie. It's not like it's a horror comedy. It's not like it's either like way too comedy over horror. I mean, there's some legitimate, I would just say frightening, but there's some suspenseful things here, and even some somewhat gruesome things toward the end. So it's not like a fantastic movie, but it is a movie that surprised me and enjoyed me. That surprised me quite a bit more than I thought it would.
I don't know quite if I got to that level of excitement, but it was certainly a fairly watchable movie. Had its enjoyable moments. I guess one thing about it is that I think it's one of these movies that tries to take something that's meant to be like a children's entertainment program or something that's designed to make kids happy, ends up going batshit crazy and attacking people. So you think of like my all-time favorite movie, Child's Play, similar type of thing, like a kid's toy comes alive and is killing people. And my second favorite horror movie, which is It, that's a clown. Another thing, I guess, clowns entertaining kids, and I just think that's one of those things that's kind of been done so much that to the point where I don't think it hurts a movie, but it's one of those things where I've seen it so much, like, because when I think I was watching, or the interviews were playing after I watched a movie, and they're going on about how creepy the characters are, the Banana Splits characters, and like they just have that look that's sort of creepy, but I mean, they do to a point, but I mean, my point here is that we've seen people try to take a lot of children's entertainment type products or characters and turn them into killing machines. And I think just for me, it just doesn't quite hit that. It doesn't have that originality that I was kind of hoping for. Not that it makes a huge difference. I think that would have helped tip it a little more in its favor if it wasn't something that's been done already so many times before. At least in a general aspect. We probably don't have too many, kids' television shows characters like this, but still, it's more or less the same thing.
Yeah, and on a somewhat related note, one thing I thought that was somewhat interesting about this, and it actually, in fact, reminded me of the Child's Play remake, would be the fact that these antagonists, the Banana Splits characters, they are like animatronics. They're robots basically. So I think it's sort of interesting that there's not really a I guess you could say like a human logic behind what they do. Like it makes sense what they're doing, like from their perspective, as hey, they do this show and they're going to keep doing this show. So then they basically imprison a bunch of kids and have the kids watch them kill people, which I think that's a pretty brutal. I enjoy that. And plus, that's a pretty smart way to get out of them killing kids, which a lot of movies have a problem with doing for some reason. So I thought that was a somewhat intelligent choice. It may not necessarily be the most original, but at the same time, I think with a lot of the elements this movie had, they may have thought it may not have needed to be as necessarily original as someone might hope. I mean, how many slashers are really original nowadays anyway?
Yeah. Well, look, since you mentioned that they're animatronic or robots, whatever you want to call it, one thing about that is that, like, I like the idea that that's what they were instead of just, some crazy person underneath the costumes, but, whenever you deal with characters that are robotic, you start looking at the characters to see how they move, how they act, and one thing it wasn't a huge factor in it for me, but one thing I did notice is that, like, half the time they acted like robots, and half the time you could kind of just feel like it's a human underneath moving around. So I don't think they quite put enough attention to detail in that aspect. Like I said, it doesn't ruin anything for me, but it's just something that I can't help but notice. And, you start thinking about that more than focusing on other things that are going on in the movie that you should really be enjoying, but maybe it just takes away a little bit from that because you spot things like that happening.
I guess the question then becomes, who was your favorite Banana Split?
Jeez. Probably the, was it Drooper or something? I don't know, just because he's just always missing half the time. It's not on cue.
Indeed.
He keeps getting stuck in whatever that guy's fence. I don't know. But, yeah, I mean, it's, there's some characters, and, like, it does a pretty good job of having a few like, making you want to see some of these characters die. Immediately once I saw those streamers, I was like, oh, fuck, I hope they die.
Yeah.
And then you got the annoying talent dad, and we're glad to see the asshole husband who eventually got what was coming to him. Well, kind of twice in the movie. At first I thought, did he die? I'm not sure. And then later on we see, oh no, he wasn't dead. I was like, oh, so disappointed. But actually, kind of in a good way that he did come back, because I thought if he had died that earlier in that movie, I was going to say he had like the tamest death scene of all, when he's probably the character you'd like to see hurt the most. And yeah, so it ended up being a good thing that he came back, because eventually when he finally did die, it was a lot better.
Yeah, like we said, the one thing, even if the movie isn't necessarily to your liking, the movie does have pretty solid special effects. Like there's some really gory things that I wasn't even expecting when I first watched this movie. It's how do you give like I mean like the ending when they do the banana split. I mean that's some pretty some of that was upstream, but it was still somewhat brutal. And just the idea of hey these kids are also watching this. I sort of like the mother, hey kids, don't watch this, turn away. So I do appreciate a lot of what this movie has in it. And I find it interesting because I know this movie had like a little bit of hype before it came out, and the reaction to the movie seems to have been somewhat split. Like on IMDb right now, and I haven't seen this for like a whole lot of movies, it has a straight 5 out of 10. So like majority of the ratings seem to be just in the sweet middle ground. So people seem to be okay with it, but not love it, not hate it, which I think is a somewhat interesting reaction to the movie.
Yeah, well, when we do get to our ratings, to be honest, I'm still flip-flopping between two particular numbers, so I'm finding it hard to pin this one down in my own mind. So, I guess just the well, two other small things. I do appreciate the security guard at the beginning there trying to frighten the kid. Well, I don't know if he was trying to frighten him. To be honest, what he said was actually, it sounded quite literal. So I'm not sure if he was trying to frighten the kid or just warn him.
Yeah, it actually reminded me of that scene from Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. It's like people go in, they never come out. And just like the overdramatic, hey, that's how a kid is toy. Sort of cracked me up.
But I guess I mean, when we get introduced at the beginning to the kid who's obsessed with the show, and they basically allude to, the idea that he's a little too old to be watching this show. And then, you go to skip ahead to where everyone's lining up, and it seems like almost everyone else in the line is older than him. I mean, where are all the really young kids? I thought this show would have been aimed towards more like, the 6 to 8 year old range.
Yeah, so I think when it's showing that lineup, I agree that I noticed a lot of the adults. And I would imagine like 90% of those adults have like a 5, 6, 7-year-old kid with them. And we just don't see them. Because those streamers, like, I don't know, I guess that's not really my thing. I don't even know who they appear to. Apparently, like, only 200 and something people. But
notice the live count of people watching never changed at all.
Yeah. Which is totally realistic. But hey, that proposal though was pretty romantic. But I just have to imagine that most of those adults, they had kids, otherwise it'd be somewhat creepy.
Yeah.
I was funny. I was actually going to make a somewhat tasteless joke, but I just stopped myself last second. So yes. And one other thing I wanted to mention, despite the movie being, just a sort of generic slasher movie type thing, I thought there was not like overly emotional. I did like the little kid on Snorky, which is the elephant banana split, probably one of the few gold banana splits. Kid really likes Snorky and tries to get Snorky to do the quote unquote right thing to help them, and stuff happens, and I thought it was almost emotional. I almost cried. So good stuff, and God bless Snorky.
Yeah, so I'm struggling still to think of what score I want to give this movie. But I think for now, I know our ratings are slightly different to what we give 6 and 7s. Like, you consider 7 to be average, I consider 6 to be average. So I'm giving this one a 6 out of 10 for now. But I am thinking that on the next rewatch, there's a chance I might switch that to a 7. I'm at a 6.5
Yeah.
to do a jiggy with this one, and I just guess it comes down to what's this next viewing gonna be like? Is it going to be kind of like push it up further? Am I going to have a little more fun with it the second time around because I now know kind of what the movie is? Or is it just going to be the same? So we'll see, but for now, 6 out of 10.
Yeah, so I've seen this movie twice now, and I've enjoyed it both times. I think it has decent amount of characters who I enjoy, even the characters I don't like, such as like the drunken guy on the show, cast member. He just cracks me up. He's just like taking shots of whiskey and then coming out to do a children's show. Like that guy's high class.
Mm.
And there's a decent amount of characters I enjoy. The one black chick too, she was pretty cool. And that's pretty good of the brother too. Like, hey, my younger brother, it's his birthday. Could you get him backstage? And hey, she does. So hey, well done. So I enjoy some of these characters. I think the gore is really great. You see a guy getting cut in half. It's a lot of organs coming out. I thought, and plus the guy in question was somewhat annoying too. So well done. So I think there's a decent amount going for this movie. I enjoyed it more than I thought I would. So, and sometimes my ratings can be bit iffy, but hey, 8.5 out of 10, and I'm going to lower that down to an 8 out of 10 because it's a decent movie. It's not amazing, but I thoroughly enjoyed it. So 8 out of 10, and that is all that she wrote. I'm not a she, but yes.
Yeah, well, like I said, I think there was a genuine attempt here to make something good, and it seems to be backed by one of the biggest studios, I believe. I can't remember which one, even though it is still more of a low-budget movie.